Monday, Thursday devotional. So I'm here with Keegan. Keegan's helping me videotape. There was the other day I was out doing videos for a front porch on my little rowboat, and I was reflecting on Acts 27 as Paul was in the storm, and it talked about how Paul belonged to God. So I started thinking about, well, I belong to God. And that's kind of how I ended it. I said at the end of my video, I belong to God. And that's it. And then I said it again, and that's it. Well, the video went somehow to Hartford, Connecticut, to a priest, Father Jacobs. And so Father Jacobs gave me some feedback. And it won't be the last time I get feedback. And it was awesome feedback. And he said this. He said, I appreciate what you had to say about belonging to God, but it doesn't end there. That's not it. I thought, well, really? What does that mean? And he went on to say in his text, as it was delivered to me, that because we belong to God, therefore we belong to everyone. And I started thinking of my neighbors, started thinking of you, started thinking of all the people in our church, all the people in our community, so on and so forth, all the ends of the earth. So we belong to everyone because we belong to Jesus. So that's my big thought is, I belong to Jesus, therefore I belong to everybody. So in John 13, which is the scripture for today, talks about Jesus washing the feet of the disciples. And what he does is he demonstrates a connectedness and a belonging to the disciples through washing their feet that he longs for all of us to have. So he demonstrates it to us. It's a shocking act of humility. In that instance, slaves did that, but certainly not the teacher of disciples. And Jesus did it. He demonstrated preparedness. He demonstrated what he expected his disciples to be about. So, at the Last Supper, in verse 1, we'll start there. Let me read it to you. So, now, before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world and to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. During supper, when the devil had already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going back to God, he belonged to God, and God belonged to him, he belonged to everybody. Jesus is demonstrating that. Rose from the supper, he laid aside his garments, and taking a towel, he tied it around his waist. Then he poured water in a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, do not wash my feet. Jesus answered him, what I'm doing to you, you do not understand now, but afterward you will understand. So, the scene is set. Passover meal. Jesus is demonstrating humility that he calls for all of us to have in belonging to one another, in belonging to God, and belonging to Jesus. He does this shocking act of washing the feet. It was a self-giving act. Now, as I think about what's going on these days, the biggest challenge we have in the particular situation we're in is to be selfish. No, that's not it. Not hoarding, not selfish, but self-giving. That's the idea. So verse 2 really blew me away. As I looked at verse 2 and read about what Jesus did, Judas Iscariot was one of the disciples, and he washed his feet. Think about that. He knew what Jesus was about to do, and he washed his feet. That's amazing. That's the fact that's demonstrated by Jesus. His humility has no boundaries. His humility has no boundaries. How about ours? How about ours? Judas, his heart was moved by Satan. And so I was thinking about this, and I was reading something in a commentary, and it said something similar to this, and I picked it up and thought about it a little bit more. It says, a heart moved by Satan wants what Satan wants. A heart moved by Jesus wants what Jesus wants. You know what Jesus wants? Jesus wants us, you and me, to belong to the Father, and in turn, belong to the hurting and increasingly hopeless world. So, that's our invitation. That's what the scriptures are asking us to consider. How about us? How about our humility as it relates to caring for other people? So, I was just thinking about the call of the scriptures as I thought about Jesus demonstrating this humility as he washed the disciples' feet. I thought, well, Lord, what would you have me do? And I thought of Isaiah 6:8. It's this. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, here I am, send me. So that's not if you understand the verse and the context of it, and you really study, as I looked at it years ago, I came to understand that it's not, hey, I got this, I'll go, God, which I have a tendency to do, if you know me. I got this, but that's not it. The reality of that scripture is, here I am, would you be willing to send me? Will I do? Am I okay to go? So it's more of a humility of saying, God, I'd love to go if you would have me. So how do we go? How do we serve? How would God use us in these times where we're overwhelmed with this thing that's come upon us, this storm, COVID-19, that has isolated us? Well, I think the humble inquiry of God would say, God, could you use me? The resounding answer is a definitive yes. Yes, he can use us. How? Well, we can reach out. We can reach out in various ways in our present isolation. We can reach out through a card, through a text, through an email, through a picture, by a phone call, by a link to something that really moved us. We can give hope. We can give hope. In Shawshank Redemption, there's a last line that says, Andy Dufresne talks to Red, and he said, hope is the most powerful of things. It's the most powerful things. It's maybe one of the best things. And then he goes on to say, Red, if you can find me, I hope that this letter finds you and that you would find me. Hope is the greatest of things, the most powerful of things. And so hope changes everything. It really does. Hope changes everything. So we belong to Jesus. You and I belong to Jesus. And therefore, we belong to everyone. And that's unstoppable. That's unstoppable. All right, Keegan, you can cut it. God bless.